Folks, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting on all the madness. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from college basketball to a $200,000 bracket contest, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every Cinderella story to every hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. Enjoy the show. All right, folks. Well, normally this would be a Flyperbole intro for me right here, but, Ryan Quigley could not do it tonight, and the big topic right now is John Tortorella. We're all talking about Tortsy in the Flyers world, so we figured let's get some of the BSH people together. So I said, whoever's available on a Friday night, whoever's got nothing better to do, I'm going to be drinking a beer and talking about John Tortorella, okay? And whoever wants to join me can join me. Right now we got Jacob Russell, who's awesome, so I'm very excited to talk to Jacob about this. How you doing tonight, Jacob?
I'm doing fantastic. I will grab a beverage of my own. Now that you said that. Next to the fridge next here. Excellent. I'm doing great. I haven't gotten the chance either to talk about this Torch stuff. And I've gotten a lot of opinions built up over the last probably couple months at this point.
Yeah, I think there's some hot takes to be had on this. And like good hot takes, not like Marcus Hayes or name some other Philly writer hack.
Carchidi. Classic. Go back in time.
Slam and Sammy. We love Slam and Sammy around these parts. So. There's a lot of bad takes to be had out there, but I think people are starting to come to a little bit of a consensus when it comes to Tortorella. So at this point with Tortorella, this is year 3 of Torts. He has a 4-year contract with the Flyers. So we're really thinking about the future right now for 2 reasons. A, his contract's, it's the last year of his contract coming up. But B, the other factor is like, it feels like the Flyers are on the verge of starting to build again. They are bottoming out this season ever since they traded Scott Lawton away. They traded Kuzmenko. They traded Frost and Farabee. The team's starting to bottom out, and they're now in the bottom 5. So if they can continue bottoming out, that would be fantastic. So I guess at this point, we're just trying to think like, okay, is this still the path we want to continue on? Because it's also, you're looking at his relationship with guys like Cam York. You're looking at his relationship with Matvei Mishkov, most importantly. And is this really the style of hockey we want to be continuing with? Because like, it's such a defensive style, so heavy on shot blocking.
It's definitely not a sustainable or a modern style of play. Playing off the rush and relying off the rush the way that the Flyers have recently in the past couple of years under Torts, it's simply not sustainable, especially against great teams who clog up the neutral zone, especially come playoff time. It's a lot more clutch and grab. The pace slows down. It's not going to work. But the problems I've had with Tortorella, or the roadblocks I come to with Torts now, are more like these big picture things, Like you said, the relationship with guys like York, who could very well be a top 4 defenseman for the next 5 to 10 years with the Flyers, if the organization saw fit, right? And obviously Matvei Mishkov, the guy who you hope is going to lead the charge forward into the future. Tortorella, the benefit of John Tortorella is usually coaching good teams, get those 2 years out of him where he squeezes as much as he can out of either a good team or a team who has subpar talent, who needs to squeak into the playoffs like he did with some of those Rangers teams, but primarily in Columbus.
Oh, Columbus. It was just like, those teams were not that good.
No. And I see the Flyers doing the same sort of thing. And where did that get Columbus ultimately? They're back in a better place now, but they circled around and really had no direction for the time that he was there.
Right. And like what they're doing right now actually feels like a sustainable building block for them. It feels like a path forward, and it feels like they're actually going to be pretty good for the next few years based on what they have. Whereas the Flyers, it's like, I'm really grateful that Danny Briere has done the right thing and sold at the deadline 2 years straight, because if that team didn't trade away Sean Walker and let's say other things that we don't want to get into in great detail, but other things in the goaltending area maybe don't
Yeah.
change, right? The vaguer the better on that. But if factors don't change in that season, that team probably does make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And where does that leave this team? Because they need the draft picks. They need to get more depth wherever they can. I mean, we've seen all the problems this year. This year's been such an eye opener as far as where the Flyers need to be and what they need, looking at the center position in particular,
Yeah.
seeing the lack of stability at center and how it's affected the power play in particular. Like, and Matvei Mishkov, like what he can do out there, he needs a guy at center that can play with him.
Yeah. You need a guy who's going to be able to help continue distributing the puck around, or if he's not going to do that, at least finish the chances that he creates, that Mishkov creates, due to his gravity and due to his ability to see the entirety of the ice, right? A guy like Sean Couturier, without ragging on Coots, it's been a rough year for him. It's been a rough couple years for him, but he's just not offensively gifted enough or physically at his peak anymore, to the point where he can actually take advantage of the space that Mishkov creates. And that leads to a lot of plays where Matvey's kind of just in a 1-on-3 situation in the low slot, close to the corner, near the hash marks, outside the hash marks, and he's looking to the middle, and Coots is coming. He's just not in the zone quick enough. He's just simply not trailing at a close enough rate. And against NHL opposition, you're going to get closed down when you're making that stop-up move and trying to look towards the center. So it's just not good enough right now.
It's not good enough. So they need to build, and Luchenko seems like he's going to be a nice piece. Probably more of a middle six piece, though. They really need that top piece, and hopefully they can bottom out, get a draft pick in the top 4 this year, get somebody up there, but also go out and get a guy in free agency or trades or whatever. But that's the plan, right? Where does John Tortorella fit in this larger picture? Is he a part of that? Because we've seen things this year. We mentioned Cam York, but also his relationship with Mishkov goes back and forth. I think he likes Mishkov. I think he likes the fire in Mishkov, but to see stuff like when Mishkov maybe just doesn't back check just the way he likes and he gets benched for the better part of a period, this kid needs to be playing. I want him out there, and he is the future of the franchise. He's who you're building around. So
Yeah.
this stuff, it pains you to see, and it worries you for the foreseeable future, because I want him to blossom offensively. Like, do I want him to be an all-around great hockey player? Absolutely. But like,
Yeah.
you didn't draft him for his defensive skills.
No. And this is, I feel like I brought this up at the start of the season, maybe with Thomas and Matty in our preseason, like looking at prospects, looking at young players. I'm not worried about Mishkov reacting to Tortorella. I've never been worried about him reacting to Tortorella's coaching style, because if you look at Russian coaches and the coaches that he had coming through the junior ranks, and especially going to the KHL and even with SKA, there's a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of just being a young guy who, Mishkov, one of those stud Russian prospects, he's going to play at, above his age group. Those guys just don't get treated very well historically in Russia. They don't play a lot. They get benched a ton, and they don't usually play with the teams that they should be if they have a parent club. That's why the Demidov stuff is, has been seen as so impressive partially as well, right? What he's doing in the KHL. I have no doubt that Mishkov could have done that too if he had the opportunity, but it's just hit and miss with a lot of these guys, right? So I'm not worried about the hard coaching style of Tortorella. I'm more so worried about Mishkov looking at Tortorella's like X's and O's, actually like the actual way he wants to play the game, and saying, this is fucking stupid. Like, this is just dumb. Like, we're not going to win a Stanley Cup playing like this, simply. And if he thought that, if that permeated through the locker room, one, it's bad, and two, it's not necessarily wrong.
Right. I mean, you look again at Columbus, right? Like, that was a team that annoyed the shit out of the Tampa Bay Lightning,
And beat the Leafs that year.
And they beat the Leafs that year, but they weren't going to win the cup ultimately. Like, they're going to frustrate some teams, but they're not going to win the cup because they just didn't have A, the high end talent, but B, also like this shot blocking, this like turtling up style. It can win you some games. It can get you into the playoffs barely, but it's just not. It's not the formula to dominate. Like, you look at Florida and what they did last year. The Panthers they had so much high end talent, and it really starts with Alexander Barkov, who
Yeah.
talked about importance at the center position. They hit a home run with Barkov, who is not only really good offensively, he's one of the best two-way forwards in the game.
Yeah, you look back at just the successful teams of the past however many years, you see Barkov, Kopitar, Jonathan Tays, like that is that number one center who's a two-way stud. Obviously, very hard to find. Those guys are all Hall of Famers in their own right, but I'd say Barkov's he's probably going on that pace right now if he's not already there. Oh, I've been kicked out.
Oh no, we got all three. Can I get three up?
There
We
we
go.
go.
Oh,
There
wow.
we
That's the
go.
one. There you can
That's
see
the
all my
one.
pores.
We were just talking.
Good thing I did my eyebrows today.
Well, we got Thomas Williams joining us tonight. Thomas, how's it going, Holmes?
Good. How are you guys?
We're doing great.
Good.
We were just talking. We're in the thick of it, talking about Tortsy right now. And
Ooh.
Jacob, when Thomas joined, we were just talking about like some of those high end centers in the league and just
Yeah.
like that two-way play and how important having those guys is to a team being a cup contender.
Yeah, definitely. Like you see the correlation of like the top guys, the top teams, and like the Stanley Cup winning teams in the finalists, and then you get really good centers are usually the on those teams.
Yeah.
For sure. But also those teams are able to play high, like at a high offensive level that a lot of John Tortorella teams just don't seem capable of playing due to that just defensive style that he promotes.
Yeah. Like what would even be a team that has won the cup recently that you would say was defense first? Would it be like St. Louis?
I was thinking of the Kings initially.
Like, yeah.
But even
Like
the Kings had
those-
like Jeff Carter in there.
Oh no,
scoring
the
goals
Kings
and
were
stuff.
stacked.
Yeah,
They were a fantastic
Kopitar.
hockey team, and Jonathan Quick, like
Quick was unbelievable.
But their
St.
identity
Louis,
was more
I think.
defensive. But St. Louis, yeah,
Well, St. Louis didn't really have like Ryan O'Reilly was probably like their best center on that team.
Yeah. Like O'Reilly, Shen, then it was what was it like Bozak? Like
oh Bosey, Leaf legend,
Yeah.
Tyler Bozak. Well, it's Parayko, it's Pietrangelo, and then
Pietrangelo,
it's Peak Binnington, right? That was the backbone of that team. And Ryan O'Reilly, again, you could probably put him on the list of guys along with, like me and Steve were just saying before you joined, Thomas, Barkov, Kopitar, Jonathan Tays. Like that's the type of guy. Ryan O'Reilly, obviously not to the same level as those guys consistently, but he's the same sort of guy. And that's if the Flyers could probably emulate like the best version of these Flyers are those Blues, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. I totally understand. What you're
But like,
saying
there's no chance that that's going to happen. And even for those Blues, it was 1 in a million, like storybook ending that even happened.
I still don't understand how that happened. It doesn't make any sense. Like
No.
Binnington has the year he has, and like I mean, if I even think back to the last time the Flyers had a true contender in there, the 2010 Flyers, right? The 2010 Flyers, they don't have like a number one monster center, but they have great depth down the middle. If you look, you have Carter, you have Briere, you have Richards, Giroux can play some center. You have really good depth down the middle. And that was one of the big factors there. But the thing is that team could freaking score. And most of these teams can score. And I don't know. I just don't feel personally, and I think a lot of people are feeling this way, like when the Flyers shift gears into the next mode of this rebuild, which feels like it's coming either this year or next year, John Tortorella just does not feel like the guy who should be behind the wheel of that team when they're ready to shift gears.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Like I think his purpose being here was to have this initial stage of the rebuild. Again, like Briere said, or someone said, Jones or whoever it was, that it was the finding out who has it and who doesn't. That was with the Flyers and Torts' role on this team, to kind of filter out players. And we've already discovered some of that filtering, obviously with Frost and Farabee gone, and Lawton obviously isn't here for. He was one of the veterans that left, and Torts and Briere and Jones didn't see him as a long-term piece when the team wanted to be good again. So I think Torts was here initially, and then next coach would be here, get our young guys, get some more juice in the offense, get some this is a team that wants to have results now. The process has already been there. The process and the foundation have been built upon a little bit. Then the next guy will build upon that and possibly bring some of that torch elements. Like maybe the defense will have that. Obviously, Bradshaw might still hang around, but I think now the next guy coming in could just build upon, and that'll be the next kind of shifting with a little bit maybe higher expectations from us overall. But yeah, I don't think Torts was the right. When the team wants to win, I don't think he's going to be on the bench, basically.
Right. Well, and the thing is also, Torts was not a Danny Briere hire. He's a Chuck Fletcher hire. He's a guy inherited, and every GM wants to hire their own coach. Nobody wants to, if the other guy works out, great, but most of the time they want to hire their own guy with their own philosophy.
Yeah, and with Tortorella, Tortorella would hate Danny Briere, the hockey player.
That's true.
That's what
true.
I always go back to.
Yeah.
Keith Jones, the hockey player, probably likes him. So I guess that's why it balances out. But Danny Briere, it just doesn't seem like there's a path. And maybe I'm wrong. I guess if you see the game from a different angle, you can always change your perspective. But it doesn't seem like there is a way that those two men think the game of hockey the same way, especially considering Tortorella is playing this style that is it would be so good in 2003. This is like,
and it was.
Do you ever remember when it's like one of those documentaries or features on National Geographic from the 80s where they're we're going to look 20 years into the future. This is what hockey will be like in 20 years into the future. Everyone blocks shots in the trap and everything is still the same. We just score off the rush now and everyone skates fast and the sticks are really good. But everything else stayed the same. Yeah. We pull the goalie with a minute left and we have 18 guys. And when the other team has a 6-on-5, we stack 6 guys. We somehow play too many men and we put all of them in front of the net and they all have shin pads that are this wide.
And also guys are going to be able to elbow in the head.
Obstruction is fine. But yeah, it's all good.
It is wild what a different game it was back then.
It's crazy. It's unbelievable. Imagine if you were 65 or something. It's not even the same thing.
It's so wild because if you watch other sports, they generally look the same. American football looks the same.
Yeah.
Baseball looks the same, right?
Soccer is very similar.
Soccer is very similar.
Except they just run faster, maybe. And
the NHL and the NBA, though, look very different. The NBA, it's more stylistic because it's probably a little less physical. It's more three-pointer based now. But the NHL is just so much faster now. And that's for the better of the game. It is a much more watchable game. The ratings might not be there, but as far as watchability goes, it's a lot more fun. But Tortorella, as fun as he is to talk about from a blogging and a podcasting perspective, guys seem to not have as much of a problem playing for him as you might think, but still, he can't be a hell of a draw for free agents to come to the town. And he just doesn't seem like he's fun to play for. He's not promoting the offense. You look at all the power play difficulties. You look at how they've been stubborn about changing anything. We say what you will about the coach in general as far as the power play goes, but they won't even, it doesn't seem like they even try to make adjustments to it beyond personnel.
To me, this is the thing that really fires me up when we talk about Torts, because the power play thing at this point, if you're the head coach, regardless of whether or not you like Rocky Thompson or respect how he coaches the power play, which is wrong if you do, because he's terrible at it objectively. But if you're the head coach, the assistant coaches are under your purview. How at this point have you not gotten involved in saying, listen, we can't be the worst in the league? Look around. The teams are really bad. Chicago will put a power play unit out there with Pat Maroon, Philip Kurashev, Jason Dickinson, some guy named Kaiser
Soze,
and Lavushnov, and they somehow are 10th in the league, and that's their PP2. It's not all. San Jose had a decent power play last year. They were totally cromulent on the power play, and they were one of the worst teams I've ever seen in my life. They shouldn't be this bad. You have to have done something at this point. Especially if you really want to win. If you really want to win and that you're serious about that goal, you had to have stepped in at this point, even if you don't want to be the guy who is, well, he obviously wants to be the tough boss. That's literally his whole thing.
That is his whole thing.
So I don't get it. I don't
he's
understand.
the number one boss baby over there. But yeah, like I don't understand it either because he does always like he coaches like he wants to win. Like he's not a tank coach at all. All the tanking is just incidental at this point, and I'm sure the guys being gassed from him running them down is a big factor in that too. But yeah, it's just feeling like at this point, it's kind of feeling like his whole thing is kind of hitting a wall, and I think we're all tired of it at this point too, just from watching this style of hockey.
Yeah, like I also feel like it's similar to his vein in like I looked earlier this week of like how his stints in like Columbus, New York, Vancouver kind of ended, just to like remind myself if it was like a firing or whatever. So Columbus was mutually terminated after, or like he would not be returning after his contract was up. So he played out his final contract year, which I didn't know. I thought like he was fired or whatever. Vancouver famously a 5-year contract was ended after 1 year. And
yeah, that one was bad.
That's a good one. That was a good one.
And then
he was very unhinged in Vancouver.
Yeah, him in Vancouver was so good. I've like a lot of Canucks fans friends and just like they hate the guy. Like so
I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't blame him.
And then New York was a firing. I think on 1 year left on his deal. So
yeah,
like it's kind of 3 different ways that Torts has recently lost his job. But it's I just can't see it. I think at the common denominator for all of them though was that this like Steve, like you said, hitting the wall. They're like it felt like watching it and then just like the context around the team, how the team's built and how the team is playing and like how the lineups are. It's just like it feels like you're just like ramming your head into a concrete building just over and over again because you're so obsessed with like clogging every single zone that you can with as much as you can. So it's just like it's clearly not working. And like Torts doesn't switch up his tactics like a whole lot. He might do it from team to team, but he's not going to suddenly be like, obviously he added the rush factor when he went to Philly because he was preparing for Bichkov and stuff. But like, where did that go? Like he was preparing so far. The guy's here now. I don't know what he's doing. But
well, and this is the thing too. I was also thinking about as you look at guys, the Konechny's of the world who had a very good year but has slowed down. Owen Tippett, who has had, I think we can all say, is a disappointing year. At least numbers wise, you expected him to do more. The Farabys of the world and Frost when they were still here, they have gifted offensive players in theory, especially the Konechny and Tippett ones I'm looking at because it's that second half of the season they're just hitting the wall and they just don't produce anymore after that certain point. And Tippett in particular, it's like everybody does that play, the drop pass on the power play, run the slingshot. How can you not figure that out with Konechny and Tippett on the team? I cannot. Tippett should be an automatic zone entry. Have you seen the guy move? He just skates by everybody. Everyone's standing still in the defensive zone, in the neutral zone. He should be able to get by him, but everything. It seems like the Tortorella is not good at getting the peak performance out of offensively gifted talent. That's what I've seen right now in his time in Philly. He can get them to play well, but I think we can all agree that there's still another level of Travis Konechny that is there. Like if he plays the first 20 games of the year, that stretch 4 times over a season, that's a very, very good hockey. That's a different hockey player. That's a Matthew Tkachuk, Tkachuk type guy. Excuse me. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Thomas. You can laugh. How many Tkachuks could a Tkachuk chuck if a Tkachuk could chuck?
This is a name that's so weird that it was used for an NHL video game advertising campaign in like the late 90s. Okay. It was like, what was it? It was like, what's the sound of the puck hitting the back of the net? Kachuk. So like,
I mean, that's good marketing.
It is good marketing. It's a great commercial. But the thing is, that's because it's a weird name.
Yeah. Well, I've been saying it for literally my entire life.
Well, yeah, because it's a friggin' dynasty family like the DeMayos at this point. Like, they've just been around forever. And there's 2 of them now. So It's just preposterous. But yeah, man, I would like to see more out of Konechny and Tippett in particular. How do you not know what the hell to do with Owen Tippett when the guy is super fast? Ryan
He's
Gilbert
like
is joining us as well
it's
now.
kind of like look, there's Gilbs here now.
Yeah, Gilbs,
It's like
we
a
got-
gadget player. It's like having
Yes.
Tavon Austin. It's like Tyreek Hill in the backfield. Like,
Yeah.
can't figure something
It's
out.
automatic. Like everything that you do with Tippett it feels automatic. It's like you have an archetype of the player. You know what the guy does. You know what he does well. Just like let him do it. I don't know. Like
Just literally let him loose. Just let him rip. Bowed.
Let them rip, absolutely. So, Gilbs, to catch up, we're talking right now about some of the offensive frustrations with Tortorella, talking about just the lack of offensive development in Owen Tippett in particular right now. We mentioned TK as well. Any thoughts on that matter?
Well, I just have a bold take here, bold prediction off the top, right? With Owen Tippett, he's not a flyer next season. I think Tippett. I think
that's
we
a
see,
spicy meatball right there.
I think we see a Tippett York for a 1C trade. That's what I think we see.
Wow.
That would be spicy.
Wow.
You can
Like,
see it.
Really?
You can see it.
would you rather trade Tippett than Forrester? Like what if you had to choose between
Yes.
those two? And
Yeah,
I
I
would.
would. I'd rather
Yes.
keep Forster.
I would too.
Yeah.
I
Younger.
like the two-way play also from Forrester. Like that defensive responsibility. If they can get a coach in there who can develop his offensive abilities more, that's one of my big disappointments this year too, is the fact that Tyson Forrester, like that guy should be hitting 25 goals right now.
Yeah.
And we're worried he might not even hit 20 this year right now.
And he was part of the best line on the team.
right.
You know, and like in practicality, like for the majority of the season, Cates, Brink, Forrester, hilariously, is the best line on the hockey team.
But
What
I
is he
also
doing?
wonder what Forster would do if he was like the second or third player on a scoring line instead of one of the top players on a checking line, because he gets all those tough assignments. He's not getting the best opportunities. He's not getting power play one time. Not that necessarily matters, but like he is a guy that they could, I think, unleash more offensively. But under Tortorella, they want to keep that defensive structure going and grow that part of his game. And I've seen his skating kind of improve. Like it's not an asset, but it's not something you got to worry about. I don't think so. I'm hoping we see Forster with Michkov at some point.
I would love that. I would love that because, one of the things I was talking about, Jacob, at the top of the show was just about Mishkov and the defensive play and everything. Like, I truly don't give a damn about Mishkov's defensive play. I don't care at all. So I like having a guy who is a really good defensive player on the line with him, if not two guys that can take care of that and let Mish be Mish.
Yeah, Forster, Luchenko, and Mishkov seems like it could be a fucking banger line in like 2 years. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like that seems just, you have the speed and two-way of Luchenko. You got the two-way plus scoring of Forster, and you got the playmaking of Michkov. Like that seems like, I don't know if that's what the Flyers were thinking. They probably don't have these set lines in the future, but that seems like a great line on paper or for a video game.
I'll try it out in the video game version.
Yeah,
100%.
try put it in Chuck Fletcher's app and see if that works.
Yeah, get it in the trade. Well, that's only for trades.
Oh, right.
So, right.
Well, maybe it had more capabilities. Who knows? I'm still convinced.
Are they still?
just EA's
Maybe they're
NHL
still
game.
developing. Maybe they're
Did you guys
still
hear with the
developing
new app though? Did you guys hear with the new app?
For
Ooh,
the
what's new
the
app?
GMs, right?
It was for the
iPad
GMs,
app,
yeah.
yeah.
There's
that's
a new
the-
iPad app. And, I think it's basically like rosters, like teams rosters, and then
It's CapGeek. It's CapGeek.
yeah, it's basically like yeah.
We had that before the Capitals took it away from us.
Yeah, like with what they found out a new way to show rosters on an app. They needed how much money went in development of this? No, in the NHL is probably $600 million. We have an interactive roster on a
It's an
tablet.
app that just opens Safari on Puckpedia. It's like
Just opens Elite Prospects.
yeah.
Did you guys see like the refs are wearing like Apple Watches that like buzz when penalties are ending, so they don't have to watch for like where the scoreboard is? I
did
saw
not see
that was published around the Stadium series about how like there's an app on an Apple Watch that like when penalties are ending, like it buzzes, like when like so they don't have to like look around and everything.
Why don't they need to look around, like so
Don't
that
they-
they don't get like
So
so
they
they don't
don't-
trip or something?
I guess
So they don't dive.
like,
So they don't dive on the puck like
keep their eyes on
Kelly
the play.
Sutherland.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe his Apple Watch was like buzzing too hard and he dove into the puck.
Got a
He's got
Caesar
an
or
Apple
something.
ankle monitor. It's on his ankle. He just tripped and
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I'm into that thing. Now, my question for you guys right now is: are we thinking, as far as Tortorella's shelf life with the team, does he play out the full contract here? Does he play that last year, or coach that last year rather, or do we see maybe a change before next season?
It's tough on it. Like I'll be the first one to say like
And also, what
I
would you like to see?
I would like to see a new coach. I would like to see a new vision for the team because I think that next season, obviously they've done some of the tear down. They've stripped the roster of some long-term players, and then they're gonna, dependent on what they do this summer, I think that would reflect my feeling of need for a new coach. If they add a top center, if Luchenko's probably going to be here, if they draft super high with like a Michael Misa, Porter Matone, like a guy that you could see either this season, like a Michael Misa might play in the NHL next season, or like someone that would be on the team later after their season's ended in the junior or college or whatever. That would, if it's especially a high end guy, that would make me want a new coach more, just because like we need this process started now. We want this search, like we want this foundation laid, so then this player can get hypothetically added. But I don't see it. I think other factors will go into basically their decision. That's my part of like that's my prediction. It's like other things will have to take in place because it all depends on what their expectation is and how much action they'd really do this summer, right?
For sure. How about you, Jacob? What are you thinking? Oh, sorry, Ryan.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, let her rip, Ryan.
Well,
Go
no,
ahead,
I'm the
buddy.
opposite. I'm not going to say I don't think there's a chance he's fired or goes upstairs. I think he's coaching this team next year. He's playing out the contract. They're still rebuilding. Like, who are they going to have on the team? Like Thomas said, unless they get a Misa, unless they make a big trade, it's going to be this roster plus Luchenko plus Grabenkin plus a few smaller pieces. Like, you don't want to bring in a new guy for that necessarily. This is, like, I've been thinking about it because like Tortorella's like, oh, the third year is a huge year for me, but he's never been on a team like this where it's so clearly rebuilding, and it's year 2 of the rebuild. Like, he wasn't even a Briere hire. So like, unless David Carl wants to come here, I'm not sure who else would be available to come here. So at that point, just let Torts ride it out, get another top 10 pick hopefully, and see what happens next summer.
I really don't want to see another year of torts with guys like Sanheim and Konechny and guys who are signed for a long term. Because I think at this point, especially when I think me and Steve might have touched on this earlier in the show, but when you're going through this hell that is being coached by John Tortorella and you're just getting the shit kicked out of you, like, it's in service of basically nothing. Right? Like, you're getting your ass kicked. You're getting treated like you might as well be in the AHL if you're, guys like Jacob Pelletier, who we've been talking about, and not exactly getting the best line mates or
Anything.
ice time decisions or anything. Yeah, anything at all. Literally anything. Nothing. He is not being put in the best place the best place to succeed right now. So I just don't want to see another year. I think you can lose the room really easily. I think the time's ticking on that now. I think if we get into another season next year with another trio quartet of shit goalies, pardon my French, and
French away with that.
Yeah, and you get to April or you get to February, you get to March, and the team is languishing and it's 5 points behind real true contention, but not necessarily completely bottomed out. If you get to that point again, I think if that happens next year, the room might actually start to turn and some of the leadership figures will really actually start to turn in a way that Torts can't get them back. And I think that just leaves a mess for whoever comes after him, inevitably, who is not going to be the same taskmaster type guy that Torts is, right? And I think it might lead to problems. I don't know.
Well, the one guy I'm really worried about getting frustrated is Mishkov at this point, because, like, granted, like, he's young, he wants to be here, he wants to be a Flyer and everything, but I want him to develop, I want him to grow, especially offensively, and I also just don't want him to get soured this early in his career with the franchise and the NHL experience and everything. Like, I want him to continue. Like, I've loved what I've seen out of him this year. He is a breath of fresh air in a way that a Flyer has not been in a long, long time. And I just worry when you see stuff like the situation a few games ago where he benched him for the remainder of the third after something happened that Tortorella was vague on, but we all thought it was the back check that didn't happen on the first goal. You know, that stuff, I don't love it. And that's what really concerns me. And I also agree with you, Jacob, on like the Konechny and Sanheim stuff. And I mean, I think he's got a good relationship with Konechny. Sanheim's a weird one, and Sanheim's really been getting his ass kicked, and like, he's been like a shell of himself in the second half of this season. That happened last year too.
Unfortunately, it just seems like he's getting broken down. Like it's weird because, you know, it shouldn't necessarily be that way. He should have the legs to get through even playing a lot of minutes. But you look at that in conjunction with going to the Four Nations and playing all of the tough minutes on D, and you can kind of see it with Tortorella's style, which is a lot of physical, like it's a lot of physical demands, whether it be blocking shots, you know, getting in the corners and stuff. And it's a tough style to play. And maybe that is starting to wear on a guy who we weren't necessarily sure is actually a number one defenseman, right?
And I do wonder, like, you made me think about what players would actually benefit from Torts being here for another year. Like, is there a player in your mind, say Brad, like in the hypothetical situation that Bradshaw stays on the bench, so you don't worry about the blue line, like Drysdale still does his things, like Drysdale can still improve his game. Is there a player in your mind that would benefit or like potentially not even sink like further down from Torts staying? Like, is there anyone that would actually benefit from this happening?
There's one guy that really is interesting to me on that front. It's Luchenko. I think Luchenko. I think Luchenko would benefit as far as
maybe
go to
back and the whole Cates line too. Like, I want to see Brink with like a full year of confidence, another off season of training. Forster, like, I don't like that line staying together because I want to see other combinations. But if that's going to be a line next season, like, sure, let them grow together. Let them see what they can do. Under Torts.
The only thing I would say about Forster is I would be worried about him turning into something more akin to Zemgus Girgensons rather than like an actually effective winger.
That's
just because he plays under Torts and he's like, forget about, I don't need to play forward anymore. I'm just going to score 10 goals a year now.
Like, everyone becomes a third liner eventually under Torts.
That's what
like,
I'm
it's
saying.
just like everyone morphs. Like,
saying.
You can bring up people to be a decent third liner, but then everyone above that should be shooting higher goes down.
Like Adam Fantilli would be Morgan Frost somehow right now.
Yeah,
like somehow he would find a way to make him Morgan Frost. I don't know.
Gilbs is getting ready to throw his high life across the room. By the way, we're high life bros right now.
There we go.
So there we go.
I just want to don't go too far away from this before I bring up this point. Has Tortorella lost the locker room, or is this just a bad hockey team? Because we saw them fight back in the third period against the Capitals. They're the best third period team in the league. Caps are up 3-0. Flyers came within 1. Like, this isn't. I don't think he's lost the room. I think Konechny is in his own head. I think Sanheim has played a ton of minutes. He's been noticeably unnoticeable, and they've traded away 3 of their locker room leaders. Hathaway hasn't been on the ice. He, I think, is someone that's definitely overlooked for his voice in the room on the ice. Like, you have Pelletier being, I don't know what they're doing with Pelletier. Like, I hate that I'm becoming this Pelletier stan, but like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
I just want him to play.
Give him one decent line mate. Like, he drew a penalty against Hedman like last week against Tampa Bay, and then he gets nothing else. Like,
I'd love to know what he is. I have no idea what he is right now.
Yeah, I don't think he's lost the room. I think this is just a team that has lost 4 or 5 roster players, if you include Risto, and they're a team that can't afford to lose one.
No, I agree with that, but it just, I don't know. Maybe it's just also the fact that I'm used to getting coaches turned over every 3-4 years. I'm looking at the Flyers coaching history right now, and hey guys, when was the last time the Flyers had a coach for over 3 years?
Was it
Paul Holmgren?
No, it was Dave Haxtell.
Yeah. That's not that long ago.
It was like
4
3.5
years of Dave Haxtell.
Yeah,
And it says 5 for Laviolette, but does that include his cup of coffee at the beginning of the 2013-14 season?
Another reason I think you let
I think it
Tortorella
does.
play out his contract is you don't want to bring in a coach this offseason and then that coach be someone that impacts your free agent decisions next offseason and following that when you're actually going out to buy, when you're actually going out to overpay these free agents. You don't want, like, if McDavid's a free agent, if someone like that caliber, Kaprizov is a free agent, and you can get a coach that can kind of bring him and Michkov together, I love that. So that's why, like
if either of those guys are free agents, I'm letting them pick the coach.
well, exactly.
I'm letting them be the coach.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a rebuild. The next year is not going to be fun. It's not going to be a fun, enjoying hockey team. I hate to say it, but Briere is in year 2. This is going to be his 3rd off season. He has 7 picks in the first 50 or so. Like that is big. That is important. He's getting a top 5 pick. Like, you can't just bring in a new coach now, because then what happens if you do want to bring in Kaprizov does want to bring in a new coach next summer? Like, okay, see ya. Like, I don't think that they fire Tortorella.
I think with that in mind, that obviously this whole big game hunting in 2026 thing hanging over probably for the next 12 or 18 months, whatever. I can't do math, so that I think establishing your coaching staff for next season, that would be heading into that season, I think could also play a factor as well. I think for free agents or RFAs that are offer sheeted or big trades, and then say if you trade for a UFA and they re-sign here or whatever, attracting players based on these are the coaches that you're going to be playing for, and figure that out of who they want to play for. That's what a Mike Sullivan, a player could flourish under Mike Sullivan, might want to play with him. He's coached some of the best players to ever live. I would gladly sign with Sullivan. And
I'm all about Sullivan. It would also piss off Pittsburgh Penguins fans. And man, I'm always about that.
I just don't think they're letting him go. If they were going to fire him, it was going to be earlier this year. And I just checked his contract. It's through the 2027 season. So
yeah, and they shouldn't let him go.
No, absolutely not. I mean,
they'll be happy.
If somehow Cooper gets out there, if someone I don't know how you guys feel about Brunette, but I don't know. I just feel like the coach
I'll give him a shot.
The coach is just pointed at because they're not playing well. But they traded away half their team.
He's also a jerk.
Well, yeah, he's very much a.
I mean, let's be honest,
hockey guy. He's a hockey guy. He's a hockey guy.
But he's also mean. He's mean.
At this point,
he's mean and a meme.
Yeah, you're mean.
At this point, it'd just be nice to have a fun guy or a guy that's nice.
I just want a nice guy.
You want a mushroom behind the bench, Thomas? You want a fun guy?
Good night and good hockey, folks.
Good night and good hockey right now.
Now, who was the guy? I'm trying to remember. It was John Stevens. John Stevens is the infamous Flyers coach for being too nice. I always call him Sheet Cake Stevens because there was a story about after the Flyers got a first round victory, he gave the team a sheet cake, which was just hilarious. And then he had a metaphor where he's the team is the cake, the eggs, and the frosting, and it's oh my god.
Was it a Costco cake? Probably though. That shit bangs,
probably.
Top champion.
Everyone made fun of Nick Sirianni's. What was the roots of the flower gotta grow? Everyone made fun of that.
The man knew what he was talking about. Apparently, he's a maniac, but he knew what was going on somehow. Let's get real quick to some of these user comments. So I asked people on social media earlier for some of their thoughts on Tortorella. I have not reviewed these yet, so these could be unhinged. We will see. But we're going to start with Instagram because I don't know what the hell's been happening on Blue Sky. I saw a bunch of notifications on that, and it's either one conversation back and forth or it's a bunch of them. So we're going to find out. But we'll start with Instagram. Mike McAllister replied to me, said, I think Torts has one more season. My working theory is that the Flyers will have a new head coach going into the 2026 offseason. When the Flyers cap space opens up, Torts will move to a front office role and maybe something that focuses on Phantoms player development. Can he coach the Phantoms, actually? That would be great.
That would actually
do that. Yeah, that works. That's good.
Anything but Lappy. I mean, you want to talk about somebody that actually should be fired.
He's a horrible hockey coach.
He's a horrible hockey coach.
Terrible at it.
I don't understand why he's in the role he is. Nobody really understands. Oh, he's a nice guy. He got a puck in the face one time.
He blocked a shot with his face, Steve.
Out.
Show him some respect.
Yeah.
It's like he's a
on.
veteran.
Life.
It's like he's actually a veteran, like a military veteran.
War vet, yeah.
Yeah, it's like he fought in Nam or something. I'm going to quickly step out because my phone is at 1%.
Well then, Jacob, this is a great time to step out. So thank you for joining
God bless. I hope all the questions are family friendly. And cheers,
if they
everybody.
aren't, guess what?
God bless everybody.
We're not on a TV network, so cheers.
I'm liking the Moosehead, Jacob. I'm liking the Moosehead.
Go Canada. Union made, baby.
Go Canada. I'm into that. Well, okay, so thanks to Mike for that comment there. Next up, we have Justin. He says, Torts opens bags of chips with scissors. He needs to go. I don't know what the hell that means, but I'm into it.
Oh, my God. Just one of those like, really safe insults.
Logan hit me up on Insta, and he said, this team has plateaued with him as head coach. They need a forward-thinking head coach who will preach focus on offense while still holding players accountable. All this to say, Torts will remain in the front office until he doesn't want to anymore because Flyera.
I mean, yeah,
Okay.
like,
Yeah,
like,
I'm not wrong.
No, exactly. Like, I think it'd be nice to think about the Flyers being one of those forward-thinking franchises. Like I remember when the Leafs had that forever under Dubas, and like, oh, everything will change now. Like teams will start thinking about all this stuff, and they kind of have. But also, like it'd be nice to have the Flyers be like, let's try this out, and it be a successful thing. Like,
yeah,
try out a guy that like has maybe coached like a USHL team, like the Chicago Steel coach, because that organization is just like a wagon and like so forward thinking and aggressive and all these stuff. And then they just hire a guy that only coached 16-year-olds, and then suddenly he's like the greatest NHL coach ever.
Right.
I'm just thinking.
I think the Flyers are a bit forward thinking in their roster building. I think they are taking advantage of getting smaller players now. Because I think that's the way the league is going to be in 3 or 4 years. So like having all these Brinks, Pelletier, Tuamala, all these guys, like it's not a horrible thing. Like I think that's something where obviously Briere being a short king himself is definitely impacting that. But I feel like that's something that, you know, you can go out and buy size. Like that's perfectly fine.
Speed over size all the time.
We got Grebby. Who needs size? We already got Grebby here.
Exactly. And they're trading Tippett and York for Tage Thompson, so that we're good.
Yeah, that's speed
perfect.
and size. There you go, done.
Yeah. There you go, right there. Moving over to Blue Sky, Photo Dave hit us up, said Torts would have made an amazing Flyers coach in the Lindros era. He's good at defensive systems, held the Caps to 16 shots last night. I feel like he's stifling talent and creativity. Not everyone needs to be a 200-foot player. Yeah, I think we're in agreement there.
How is he on making his players keep their head up? Sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fighting words right there, Gilbs. That was fighting words. Legion of Doom Scrolling, which is an awesome name right there. I just don't see much development happening with the younger guys, save Cates. Historically, the team has struggled to develop talent in-house, and with so many draft picks coming, it feels like they need a guy who can build around his players' strengths rather than trying to fit them into the system. Yeah, I agree with that, but I think after you talking logically about it, Gilbs, you do probably have that one more year of Tortorella and then somebody new. I don't know if I want to talk about this now or after the comments, but I did want to talk about the front office role and what we think about all that, because somebody in the Slack had brought that up earlier, and I thought that was really interesting. Let's maybe see a couple more of these, and then I think let's get into the front office stuff. And it does look like it was just a lot of back and forth in the comments here rather than one comment. So I'm going to try and pare this down because I'm not reading an entire conversation. You can follow me on Blue Sky if you'd like to see that conversation in my mentions. Oh, wow. But Jay Peacock said, I probably gave him more leeway than most fans for a while because it did seem like he was finding out who players were and whether they fit into the org's mold of what they want the team to be, even when I question his process. But it feels a lot more aimless now. For example, why can't we see who Pelletier is? Yeah, I think we're all frustrated with the Pelletier thing. Mm-hmm. They've had him for, what, like a month at this point, month and a half, and like he's played maybe like 20 minutes of hockey.
Yeah, like I think it's 13 games, and then he's averaged under 9 minutes, I think I want to say. Like,
That's nuts.
I'm gonna pull it up now because I was looking before because he's played. I'm sure by now he's played more with Nick Delorier than without him, which is not a fair way to assess anybody.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
look, I like Ulul Excel fine enough. He's a quad A player, but like you can put Ulul Excel on that fourth line and put Pelletier playing with some actual talent sometimes.
So Lixell is a Group 6 free agent. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but do the Flyers have him in their plans? Like, is he going to be okay being a AHL call up? Like, or why are they giving him this look? Like it seems like they have younger guys. Like,
yeah, that's a perfect point because it's also like, yeah, so he's a group 6 because you have to have 80 games played in your NHL career by 25, I want to say, and then you're extended to the 27 UFA status. So this is to give players exactly like Lixell, opportunity to play elsewhere early on. But yeah, so like I don't see his role changing if they re-sign him. Like, say they re-sign him to a 1-year leagueman deal, he's going to be playing the exact same role next year. Like, he's not instantly on the team unless he has a crazy camp. I mean, he might be on the team because if they add no one, but his role is not changing. So I could see either him going to another org that's worse, like a San Jose or Chicago or something, trying to just have a more guaranteed NHL job, or honestly just going back to Sweden and then just getting paid millions of crowns.
He's going to Carolina and pot in 20 is what he's doing.
Oh my god.
Dr. T's sitting here like,
God damn it.
Bring it on. He's just standing in the bushes.
He's going to be turned into a defenseman there, and suddenly he's like amazing.
Yeah, he has actually still played more without Nick Delorier at 5-on-5, 55 minutes, 36 seconds to 54 minutes and 48 seconds with Nick Delorier. He has a 55% expected goals 4% without him, 46% with him. Like, not that either or huge sample sizes.
Do we think Kuzmenko still has more actual minutes played on ice than Pelletier has as a Flyer?
Probably. He was on the power play.
Yeah, he was on the power
the
play.
Okay,
he was getting second line minutes over there. Like, he probably does.
He played almost exactly 2 hours, 119.59. Pelletier. I'm sorry, I'm looking up stuff on a podcast.
No, I do it all the time.
114.32. Yeah, still hasn't played.
Yeah,
and that's 13 games for Pelletier and seven for literally almost double, and then still hasn't reached the same. Yeah, that's nuts.
And Kuzmenko is one of the best scorers the team's had in the past month.
And he's scoreless with LA.
Yeah.
I think he's played 7 games there, 0 points.
It is honestly very funny that the Flyers, one of the Flyers' biggest offensive problems right now is the guys they traded away. Specifically, I would say Frost and Kuzmenko. And those guys haven't done dick with their new teams.
Oh my god!
No, Frost and Farabee each had like one nice goal, and Farabee shot off at the mouth.
Yeah.
But
Frost has 5 points.
Yeah. Before I forget about it, I want to bring up. I posted about this on Blue Sky, but like Bobby Brink on the Capitals' third goal. The Flyers had a 4-on-2 going into the zone, passes it behind Sanheim. Capitals come down, score on a 2-on-1 or 3-on-2. Like, if that was Matvei Michkov, he's still on that bench in DC. Like, he's not only he's in the fucking timeout corner, and Bobby Brink is right back out there in a time when you could get Pelletier there, you could put Lixell there and move Pelletier to Lixell. Like, that's something where when you see Michkov being benched, you're like, okay, as long as other players are held to that standard. And that was a perfect example where it was a horrible mistake. Get the puck in deep, and you're down 3 instead of down 2.
Right, I agree completely. Like, I don't think he's holding guys to the same standards there. Michkov, I think it's because he wants to take him down a peg, and that's one of the things that bothers me about Torts is like, his ego's too big. We need a big ego on the Flyers, okay? We need somebody who wants to kick ass and take names out there, like somebody who really relishes being a Flyer and having a chip on his shoulder. It's such a breath of fresh air, and he wants to take that away. No way.
No way, Jose.
No way, Jose. Get out of here. So south of Kevin said it was clear that players quit on him. then it's worth if it was clear that the players quit on him, then it's worth talking about. The dearth of talent on this roster is still the more pressing issue that needs to be addressed. What coach could turn this roster into winners? We've got goalies that can't catch a cold, the worst power play seemingly ever, and a roster full of mights and maybes. Not saying Torts is blameless, particularly with the skaters, but it's a much bigger mess than a single guy behind the bench. Yeah, I think we're in agreement there, Kevin. I'm tired of him, but yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah, and any team with an old man coach, we saw this last year too, is going to be questioned after they sell at the deadline and they lose 5 in a row. Like,
I don't want any more old man coaches, I think is where I'm at.
Well, I completely agree. Down with the olds.
Down with the olds, yeah, let's go. Except for all the olds who listen to this podcast. Thank you all. Yeah, and I guess not me though. I'm only a little bit old.
No, you're not old.
I was surprised there were some 65 pluses that were in our YouTube metrics. It's like, wow.
Shout out to the 65 pluses. You're the real MVPs, guys.
Only shout out them if they're subscribed on YouTube, though. If they're not subscribed, we're not shouting you out.
Subscribe, folks. We are trying to build up the subscribers right now. So subscribe on YouTube, rate, review, wherever you can. Like all that stuff. We appreciate that. Jay, the Flyers Prism, said, disagree with the development part, kinda. Sanheim and TK broke out under Torts. York had a great year last year. Looks like they're on their way to fixing Drysdale. Cates, Brink, and Forrester have improved, but it does seem like Torts is likely taking all of these guys as far as he can take them. Offensively, they look like they're on their own. That's the way the bad development looked under Hack and AV, so there's definitely merit to the development criticisms. I think he's handled load management terribly by design. He'd rather punish a guy than give him a day off, and there are no free days off. And then Jay said like 5 more points.
Yeah, shout out JP. That's JP in the Discord, Brush Rocket Discord.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
JP, I appreciate it. I ain't reading. That's nice. I ain't reading all that, but I appreciate. I will read it, but I'm not reading it all on air right here.
Yeah, he's active in the YouTube chat normally, so shout out JP.
Mm-hmm.
But
JP, you rock. We love you.
I'm surprised they haven't done more load management. That's something I completely forgot about Michkov. Like, why not give him a night off here or there? Like, he's not in the Calder race. He's not going to win the Calder. Like, put Pelletier on his spot. Like, if we keep talking about it, like, he's been better since the Four Nations break, but that was something where when he had that break, in November in Florida, I was like, all right, this might see this sometimes, but he just had that and they were back. I don't know if they overreacted to the fan reaction and didn't want to scratch him or whatever, but yeah, that's something where I just forgot about that.
Well, even especially on the road where it doesn't really matter, like in front of the fans, whatever, all that stuff. Yeah, like I was also surprised you just saying that, like leading up to the Four Nations, the whole thing was Michkov's fatigue, and we were waiting for the Four Nations to be like, oh, he's going to go off after this because he's obviously tired right now, and then they didn't just give him a night off just after all that, and that's like again, forward thinking would be doing that, would be the Leo Carlson and Anaheim route of like that they set out in front of him. He was 18 years old last year, set out in front of him. We're only going to play you 50, 60 games or whatever. And then this is your schedule. This is our plan. On those off days, we're going to go over video with you, all this stuff. Like, it's a development plan for you. Like you have at your day job. Then why, like there should be one.
It's part of his OKRs.
Yeah. You need smart goals, Mitch Cobb. Matt Fay, get your smart goals.
Yes, I agree. Get your smart goals in there, Matt Fay, and then we'll talk to HR about getting you a little bump. Twan the Flyers John said, Tortorella's tenure seems less relevant than Rocky Thompson's. How much worse does the offense and power play have to get before he gets canned? Dude, that's the question of the day. I don't know, and we all want him gone, and Tortorella's like, it's fine. What's the problem?
Go read J Mac's column earlier this week on BroadStreetHockey.com. He did a great breakdown of that. Yeah, Rocky has to go. Like
Rocky got to
go. He's got to go. It's just what it is.
It'd be the easy trigger to pull. Like it's so easy, and it's the one problem. Like if the power play was clicking again, this team would be so much better. Like we wouldn't be so annoyed by the offense. It's just it's so many things are all funneled into power play and goaltending, and then those can both get fixed next season with just like 2 transactions, and then this team, same roster, good, whatever.
Yeah, it would appease fans so much too. It'd be such a small move to fire your power play coach, and the fans would be so happy about it.
It would make, honestly, like the season ticket holders would probably renew based on that alone.
I want them to do game 81 one game
Oh,
before the
yeah.
season.
Yeah.
Like, you're fired.
You're done.
Oh, and then you pick a random fan to
Yeah.
coach the power play.
And they score 4 power play goals.
Beautiful. Or Michkov just coaches it. Michkov just starts pointing guys around like, no, you here. Good. It'll work like gangbusters. Tony C said, I feel like his future is entirely dependent on him. I don't think he's been nearly as bad as I feared, but once they're ready to compete, I think they'll need someone new to lead them. Yeah, I think we're in agreement there, Tony. Mm-hmm. The id DM said, I've liked him. I've enjoyed the gravitas and bring some of that back to the team and the brand. Results seemed ahead of schedule last year before the late swoon. This year has been a letdown. They've never really been beyond in the mix for a wild card this year. I like his availability and honesty, even if some of the answers seem a bit nonsensical. He talks a bit too openly about not watching other teams and knowing anything about goaltending. He provides over a hellaciously bad power play. He is ultimately in charge, not assistants. And then talks about the goaltending being bad and accountability and such. But yeah, good comments there, the id DM. And yeah, like, I think with the assistants going back, like, Tortorella is in charge, and ultimately he's got to really order some changes around with that power play. Like, the power play atrocity is something I think that can't be ignored, especially when the team was at full power this year. Like, they're a mess. They have no strategy at all. And that's the number one thing I think we all need to see addressed in some way, shape, or form this offseason.
Yeah, when you go on the power play, it shouldn't be a groan. It should be okay. We might actually score here. It should be like, all right, let's see if we get a shot on goal. Like, and it seemed like it was better early in the year. They had Konechny and Michkov both on that right side. Konechny down low, Michkov on the right side where he has a one-timer. But I don't know if just he's more comfortable on the left side with Konechny on the right side. It seems backwards from getting those shot opportunities, but. They have to try something new. They have to get someone in there. They have Danny Heatley in the front office somewhere. Like, get him out there. 1507. Come on.
Yeah, that guy can dry play.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks to everybody who gave us comments on social. This was an awesome turnout. Like, I've had a lot of mailbags where I've asked for turnout and like have gotten like 1 or 2 responses. Like, this was a lot of stuff, and like this is awesome. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate the thoughts on Tortorella. I think this is a good time to kind of put a bow on things here. So, Thomas, any final thoughts on the coaching situation, John Tortorella, future of the team?
Nothing more than I've already said. I think it's just other things will tell us their direction that they're thinking with the coaching staff. I wouldn't expect a decision to happen with Tortorella returning next season before the draft or before free agency happens. I expect it's like an August or mid-July decision.
Do you think he's getting a front office role when he's not coach anymore? That's one of the things I'm wildly curious about, because everybody keeps saying it like it's been predetermined.
Again, like, yeah, we were talking on Slack. Like, I don't know where this came from, but I think it was just them getting presented as like a trio, like Jones, Briere, Torts, as this like trio, and then reporters were saying it just like as a thing, like, oh, when this is happening, he's gonna go to free agency or front office. So then
what's he gonna do up there?
Just talk about dogs. He's gonna be like the dog handler.
If he gets the team a team dog, I'm in.
Okay, that's his main job.
Yeah. Like, no, I think Torts is announced back right at the end of the year. I don't think they make it a question, and I don't think they should. I think that's what it is. There's no one better to bring in unless it's David Carl or someone gets fired unexpectedly. So calm down. It's frustrating. It's a rebuild. It's another bad year next season. So the sickos watch the games, try to enjoy them, and we can't blame you if you kind of tune out of it.
I guess my point doesn't make sense because obviously at the end of sorry, Steve.
I was doing the sickos.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Like, literally saying like stop. Like,
no. Stop. No, that would
Stop talking. Stop it.
Knock it off. No, I would just loudly say that. I live in South Philly. That's how we communicate.
Yeah.
Screaming.
Yeah, it makes sense. I guess what I was just going to say, like, is I guess my point of like the timing of it wouldn't make sense either, because obviously at the end of the year presser, Briere would probably be like overtly asked, like, is Torch returning? next year, and he probably should have an answer, yes or no, not leave it up to, oh, we'll reevaluate in the summer, and that'll be he's gone if he even says that. So yeah, my timing thing doesn't make sense. So Briere will say something.
It could make sense.
Shut
like,
up, Thomas.
Yeah. I'm telling myself to shut
They
up.
keep him around if they don't land a trade. If they land a trade, maybe they bring someone new in.
Okay, no, that's fair.
So it doesn't make no sense, Thomas. I'm giving you an out here.
Yeah, I think after hearing you talk about it, Gilbs, I think you're right. Like, I think it's, unless there's like somebody that's really apparent, somebody that's really obvious, like that they need to hire as the coach, like a Sullivan or somebody, like then you get them. But like, otherwise, let's just roll with them another year and whatever.
Rick
All
Tocchet, Flyers coach next.
Dude, I swear to God, like that makes zero sense to me.
I
Like
know.
he's tanking the Canucks right now after taking them to almost the Western Conference Final last year, and like people are like, yeah, it's going to be Tocchet. Like, number one, if he was so good, why would he be available at all?
Yeah, and like last year is PDO like Bender out the wazoo for the Canucks last year. So like he had nothing to do with that success, basically.
And also, like, if you can't get JT Miller and Elias Pettersson to agree and coexist on the same team, then maybe you're not doing a very good job coaching.
Yeah, that's potentially one of the best 1-2 center punches in the league. And like you drive one out of town, and the other one's just completely busting. Like it's no good.
Like, they're going to trade him for nothing, and it's going to be hilarious.
Tippett and Cam York isn't nothing.
Yeah.
Come on, Steve.
I mean, that's cooking with gas, and I'm into it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's cooking with gas. Let's go. I need somebody that can think on the same level as our boy Matvey. Come on. Well, folks, I think that's a good place to end it right here. So thank you so much for tuning in or listening to this. We do really appreciate you. Fellas, where can people find you on the socials if they got any feedback for you?
You can follow me on Blue Sky, ryangilbert.bsky.social.
There you go.
I'm Sludge Williams everywhere, I think. Sludge Williams.
And I'm Flyperbole everywhere, so you can find me on all that stuff. I'm mainly on Blue Sky, so that is the place to follow me. And hey, during the summer, there'll probably be a lot more mailbag stuff, so tune in on the Blue Sky to, participate in this kind of stuff moving forward. But thanks to everybody who did check in. Thanks to Jacob for joining us. Thanks to Thomas. Thanks to Gilbs here. Some lovely Friday night hockey talk. And we're going to sign off. Folks, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, in the words of the great Gene Hart, good night and good hockey.